Welcome back to Live Impact News here on 13 News Now, 1:30 p.m. here on May 8th. It is, in fact, a Friday afternoon, and we are lucky to welcome a special guest into our stream now. The CEO of IPR, the Institute of Public Relations, Dr. Tina McCorkindale joins us. And Dr. McCorkindale, our viewers know it well, is that I'm kind of constantly meeting people for the first time during a live TV interview. So my name is Connor. It's wonderful to meet you. Thanks for taking a little time with us today.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. And
Thanks
this
for
is a
having
topic.
me.
Absolutely, no problem. We really appreciate you being here because this is a topic that we've wanted to dive into. Misinformation and disinformation, and really the crux of sort of this story here and why we are so intrigued to have you on in particular is a specific study from 2026 that has disinformation and misinformation independently ranking as more pressing concerns for Americans than illegal drug use, gun violence, and crime, which is a shocking sentence to read, albeit one that is very telling about our place right now as a country. Now, I first want to start here. This is something that I actually had a friend ask me anecdotally not too long ago. The difference between disinformation and misinformation. Can you lay that out for us before we dig into it?
Sure. So both are not great, but disinformation is deliberately false or misleading information where the sender is intentionally trying to deceive or further some agenda, knowing that it's false information.
Okay, so intent there seems to be really the dividing line between disinformation and misinformation. So, okay, let's start here. This obviously is something that has become more and more of a publicly stated major concern for Americans. I'm wondering, is disinformation and misinformation, actually, let's stick with disinformation. Is disinformation at an all-time high, or is it the awareness that's at an all-time high, or could it be both?
Yeah, so I can tell you what it is since we've been doing this study in 2019. It is at an all-time high since we've done this study every year. It's at 71% of the 2,000 Americans that we surveyed said it is a major issue in society. The number 1 and 2 issues are healthcare costs and the economy. So there's only a 1 percentage point difference between the economy and disinformation. Economy is at 72%. So definitely a significant issue according to Americans on both sides of the political aisle.
And then, we go over to misinformation, and when people think disinformation and there's that intent to create confusion or to create, mistaken facts with disinformation, and you can clearly see how bad actors would want to use that to their advantage. But when it comes to misinformation, I'm wondering, how has this become such a problem when it's something that does not have that sort of declared intent behind it and then the beneficial consequences for those who perpetrate it? How has misinformation become such a major modern issue?
Yeah, misinformation has become an issue because of disinformation. So I'll explain this. Disinformation starts out as disinformation, but people, it's up to us who we're the ones who are sharing it. So disinformation can become misinformation because people will share it not knowing that it is false and misleading. In fact, research by MIT a few years ago found that false information spreads 6 times faster than truthful information. And the reason for that is it's usually, it's more emotional, it's more engaging, it's designed to incite and get people angry, so they're more likely to share it.
And now when we talk about the rise of those two factors, I think we're going to dive into some different platforms of media and how they contribute to this. But I just want to more generally ask, where does gatekeeping from a media perspective stand in 2026?
I mean, I could probably talk about that for a long time, but there are a lot of gatekeepers. We have a lot of traditional media sources that do a great job of vetting what they put out. However, we do have a lot of non-vetted media sources that aren't necessarily checking. And I put media in quotations because anyone can be a media outlet, but really trusted journalism, especially local news, is especially important for people to turn to for reliable information. And plus, with the addition of the influencer community, some are really great, some are not. And there's a lot of, with AI and other sort of programs that are designed to trick people sometimes. AI is great, but it can also be used as a force for not so good things.
And then, we started out, you talk about social media and just the internet in general. And I think there was this idealistic view of both the internet and social media when each of those things were respectively getting started, that this will be the thing to bring us all together. This will be the thing to connect the globe in a way that was previously unthinkable. And yet now we're in a situation where misinformation and disinformation are the biggest concern, among the biggest concerns in American life. Is there a linchpin moment where you feel like we turned from, oh, this is going to be great, to, oh, this is creating a new major problem here? Can you point to any specific year, instance, or invention that led to that sort of changeover?
Yeah, so we are a nonpartisan organization, but it is typically around some sort of divisive like election. So probably when we saw it really hit was during the 2016 presidential election, where we saw an increase in disinformation that was spread. And we also saw interference from like Russia and China into the election. So that also creates major challenges. And we've also seen a shift from some of the social media platforms who are doing less to stop disinformation, including, what we do find that helps when you put a banner on information that says this could be disinformation, but it's just not consistent from the social media platforms as well, which is why, to your point, social media, the purpose of bringing people together, that is really what we should use it for, and not to be divisive in our communities.
And then, when we look at some of your other 2026 findings here, we don't want to do too much of patting ourselves on the back, I suppose, but you do have here that local news remains one of the few sources trusted by both Democrats and Republicans to provide reliable information. What has made local news something that has, to a degree, maintained that independence and that immunity to this issue that has become so prevalent?
Year after year, we find local media is both print and journalism, print/online and broadcast, that we do find that they are the most credible media sources between both Democrats and Republicans. We don't see that alignment with other media sources, both newspaper or our major media stations. So local news is where it's at. And part of the reason for that is it's the community nature of what they're providing. We all know, we get to know our host and we get to know the broadcasters, and we have these great relationships with them. We see them at community events. So we do trust them because they are more familiar to us. On the other hand, we have seen a loss of local news. Since 2005, there's a great report that comes from Northwestern University's Medill School about the state of local news. And we have seen 40% of our local newspapers close since then, and creating these what we call news deserts, which means that there are places that don't have any local news sources, which is really problematic for people becoming, really great citizens of their community and know what's going on.
And, I think local news is where it's at. I think we may have to take that tagline and start using it here. We're going to have to.
You should just say, like, the most trusted source. So
absolutely. You're helping us out quite a bit here. This is a very advantageous interview, but we do unfortunately have to dig into some of the other findings you've had here. And you guys have a lot of information about artificial intelligence. I'll keep this one, we'll zoom back out with this one. You can take this wherever you want. How is AI interacting with the advent of the misinformation and disinformation age here?
Yeah, I think as AI improves, it's becoming more difficult to discern disinformation. I've also had personal experiences where I take those quizzes, like, is this disinformation or not? And trying to spot deep fakes or, what's real and what's not. And it's really hard. It's going to become increasingly harder for people to see. But what we did find in our study is that people are trusting generative AI more. So, for example, like ChatGPT, that we found 11 percentage point increase, which is pretty significant on people who are trusting these platforms more than they did last year.
And, so we're in this situation, and you've given us a lot of insight into where we stand and how we got there. And I know that one solution that we've talked about here is that local news is a great resource. But we know, as you said, there are growing news deserts. We also know that for young people, that's typically not a resource they use. It's one that we certainly hope that they would, but it just is not at this point in time. So the question is, what do we do next? How do we try and curb this problem, not just as it stands today, but for future generations of Americans?
Yeah, so we have a lot of great links and resources on our website at instituteforpr.org, including like a communicator's guide to election disinformation, because we're going to see it ramp up with the midterms. You all just had a very big Supreme Court decision today. So that is really helpful to learn about resources. And we all can be responsible for helping stop disinformation. And we have a resource talking about think before you link. And disinformation is designed to make people angry and emotional. So thinking before you share something to make sure that it is actually accurate and it's actually furthering the conversation and helping people be informed. And support local journalism through subscriptions. I mean, that's very important as well. And just sort of fight for local journalism in general.
And you talk about angry and emotional, something you mentioned within that answer. And it seems like the research has determined that angry and emotional content online and on television is what is most prone to grow viewership, maintain viewership, and keep people watching. And so if misinformation and disinformation are sort of in a little bit of a dance with angry and emotional news, is there something about human psychology that makes us just inherently and naturally prone to disinformation? Are we drawn to that in some way, more so than we are to the facts?
Absolutely. One of the things that what we see that people do is they have selection bias. They want to select information that agrees with their viewpoints. So when you have some, and a lot of times it's built to be divisive. So if you have some content that is sort of verifying your perspective and verifying your thoughts, then you're also more likely to share it because it's like, see, I'm actually right. There's what we also found in this study is that we ask a question if people knowingly share disinformation, and we've seen that range from about 12 to 14% of our 2,000 respondents do say they knowingly share disinformation. And there's some great research out of NYU that people share disinformation sometimes because it's sort of, they would rather do that and sort of verify who they are as an individual rather than admit that they're wrong. And there's a term called nationalistic narcissism. And it's fascinating research to see why people actually knowingly share disinformation as well. Oh, it's called nationalistic narcissism.
Okay, that's a new term for us here on Live Impact News, and
it's a new term for a lot of people. So
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. I mean, this is great. We've learned a lot, not just that, but throughout the course of this interview. We really appreciate you taking the time. Dr. McCorkindale, maybe we'll be able to have you on again, as this certainly isn't a problem that's going away anytime soon. But it's one that we here are as invested as anyone in trying to fix. So thanks so much for shedding a little bit more light on this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Connor. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. That is Dr. Tina McCorkindale from the Institute of Public Relations. And again, she laid that website out there. You can go and visit that website for resources to help and try and make sure that you are doing everything you can to not be prone to spreading and ingesting disinformation and misinformation. Now, as for us here on Live Impact News,